Please stay tuned for a special report. Please stay tuned for a special report from Gnostic 5 Census Knowledge Kings in association with CBS Broadcasting Network.
This is a CBS News special report. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maurice Dubois. President Trump making big news this afternoon. He's just announced a 90-day pause on tariffs for many countries around the world. In a Truth Social post here, it's a lengthy one. I'm going to read it to you. The president said, based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the United States of America to 125%. Effective immediately. At some point, he said, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including the Departments of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, that's the U.S. Trade Representative, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade, trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, and non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States. I have authorized, the president says here, a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for your attention to this matter, and that is the entirety of the president's Truth Social post there. All this as the stock market surging right now, up 5 and 3.3% there, up some 2,000 points at this moment. It's been going back and forth. Let's bring in our Money Watch correspondent, Kelly O'Grady. First reaction here, Kelly, what in the wide world is going on here?
You're seeing a lot of relief in the markets right now. I mean, we are coming off a sell-off this past week and a half at this point. And I'm just going to quote a couple of numbers for you. The NASDAQ is inching up about 8% right now. S&P 500, 6%. Both the S&P and NASDAQ were either flirting with or in bear market territory prior to this announcement. That basically means when that index has lost 20% or more from their recent highs. And it basically just means investors are cautious, they're worried, they're nervous. And you see the fact that we're coming back from this really in the tech stocks and the chip sector. And why? Because if you're going to have a tariff that was once over 30% on countries that we rely on for chips that power the AI industry, and Taiwan. By the way, your 401k too, right, Taiwan, and that's going to go down to 10%. That's why investors are reacting so positively right now.
But this is a 90-day pause. That gives them some level of certainty, quote unquote, for the moment. But this is not a long-term thing. So sugar high or not, that remains to be seen. Talk about the psychology here that leads to this kind of euphoric feeling.
And that's exactly right. In fact, I'm texting with investors right now saying, how are you feeling? Is this temporary? Sugar high, I think, is a good way to describe this because we have seen the president with Canada, with Mexico, with other countries do this pause before, where we're going to do it, now we're not going to do it, and at some point in the future, that levy does get put on, those tariffs do get put on. So the investors that I'm talking to are sort of getting back in the sectors where they think that this is going to be a positive, but they are still very cautious because we have seen this change so rapidly, which gets to that uncertainty point, Maurice.
Right. Are you surprised? Should we be surprised? Or did people see this coming all along, I'm wondering?
Well, I'm never surprised now when we talk about tariffs, Maurice. That's the one thing you can be certain about.
Right.
No, people did not expect this today, and that's why you saw, sell-off happening, so much uncertainty in the market. And there's actually this metric that we track about uncertainty. Investors were predicting so much uncertainty over the next 30 days, so no one expected this. And I think right now investors, one actually texted me right before I got on with you, and he said, expect the unexpected, and that is what I'm telling my clients going forward.
Truly. Okay, Kelly, thank you so much. Let's go to Margaret Brennan now. She's in Washington. Margaret, do you have any sense of what led to this moment?
Well, Maurice, in some quick calls I made before coming to speak with you, I was trying to discern exactly that. What I can tell you is that there were two big things that happened today that would be weighing on President Trump's mind. One of them was not just the sell-off in stocks that's been ongoing, but a big shift here when it came to particularly foreign buyers not being very excited about buying U.S. government debt. That short-term debt sale that was supposed to happen, that happens on Wednesday and Thursday, there was a lack of interest from foreign buyers. So not necessarily foreign buyers coming in and selling U.S. government debt, which is how we finance a lot of things in this country, but a concern saying and showing that there is concern about the long-term and short-term economic health of the United States. Two, you also see over on Capitol Hill some concern about getting the president's budget framework through the House of Representatives. We know as of this weekend, the Speaker of the House was trying to voice confidence that he could get this budget framework through. This is the way they can sort of expedite the other plank of the president's economic platform. Remember, he promised all these tax cuts and funding the border and other Republican initiatives. That got harder for him when he saw some members of the Republican Party stand up and say, I don't like what you're doing in my state when it comes to farmers, for example, who are going to be hit by retaliatory tariffs or the fallout from them. So you had two things weighing on the president's mind there. One, the other plank of his economic platform may be in peril because of the sequencing being off since he went into a trade war without moving the other part of his economic platform first. So the votes were a problem. Also, when it came to the market, nervousness. And you can see, we're looking at the Dow Jones Industrial Index there and stocks, but if you look at the debt markets, there was a lot of concern there today. So those are two factors. As one investor said to me, the White House pulled the knife out of their own heart. This wasn't a victory. We did hear from the Treasury Secretary promise of future negotiations with the Japanese and the South Koreans, but CBS reporting to this point is that there isn't really a negotiation underway. There are talks about having talks. So there isn't a deal that was announced here. And when it comes to China, where the Treasury Secretary was saying he's really focused, we don't have any contact at this point.
Okay, Margaret, and as you're speaking there, we see the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, there speaking to reporters outside the White House. If Margaret's still there, I just want to ask you one more question there, Margaret. Can we read anything into the 90 days that the president is going to pause these tariffs? Does 90 days have anything to do with budget negotiations by any chance?
That's an interesting timetable to point to there. In terms of what we knew the expectations were for the votes on those things, that there is a hope that they could get the tax cuts and all that business done by August at the very latest. So the timetables and the sequencing, it's useful to take this off the table is the short answer to your question.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that as well. Margaret Brennan, thank you so much for the insight. Our coverage of the tariff pause will continue on CBS News 24/7, your local news, and tonight, of course, on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News Special Report. I'm Maurice Dubois.
In association with Gnostic 5 Census Network. Thank you.